Tonight, we go even further and uncover the dangerous inmates living near Sarah Boone and the scandalous events that have unfolded within the prison walls. So did you know Lowell Prison is reported to be hell on earth? Why, you say? Oh, well, bad water, attacks by guards, and more. These are just a few of the chilling stories that have emerged from Lowell Prison that we will be covering tonight. I'm going to roll some credits, and we're going to dive into tonight's topic, which is Sarah Boone and her new residence. Be sure to give this live a thumbs up. Helps me go out into the algorithm party out there. Bring more people back to the party. It's just a free way to help me. Over on Reddit in Lowell Prison, there's Katherine Magbanua. I don't even know how to say that, if that's right. Katherine Magbanua. She's incarcerated in the prison. I hadn't heard of her, so I had to look at her. And Katherine was sentenced to life in prison plus 2 30-year sentence in Dan Markel's murder, which, I mean, I probably should have, because he was the state person that she shot. Circuit Judge Robert Wheeler sentenced Katherine Magbanua to life in prison plus 2 additional 30-year sentence run in her role for the murder of Florida state law professor Dan Markel. Last week marked 8 years since Markel was gunned down in his Benton Hills garage. Tara Cowis, Magbanua's attorney. One thing that I can say that Miss M hopes and prays for is that justice is ongoing and has not been reached in this case, and she wants each and every person who has hand in this and knows something about this to be brought to justice. So let's take a quick look at this.
That's it from Ms. Magbanua, and I appreciate the time, and she also wanted me to thank the court. She didn't get an opportunity to do that at the end of the trial. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Kawas. Okay, I did have the score sheet here that I mentioned before, and the lowest permissible sentence on the counts 2 and 3 would be 172.50 months on those. And then the statutory maximum, as we've mentioned, is 30 years. Ms. Kappelman, would you mind going up, and can you move that podium, because I can't see you behind that at this point. So if you can move it one way or the other so that I can see you sitting at the table. Great, thank you very much. All right, also, Madam Clerk or Ms. Kappelman, do we know what the credit for time served is at this point?
I have that, yes, sir. I have 2,119 days.
All right, and what the court costs are, Madam Clerk?
That would be $2,625 plus a $100 cost of prosecution.
Okay, and the state's asking that all sentences run consecutive, is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, the state's ready to proceed to sentencing in the state of Florida versus Katherine Magbanua, 2016 CF 3036 and 2018 CF 497.
I believe she is still in the Florida prison, Rebecca. And Googling it, it pops right up that she is in Florida.
Degree murder, you have been found guilty by a jury. You will be adjudicated guilty, and you will be sentenced to life in prison with no eligibility for probation or parole. On count 2, which is the conspiracy to commit murder, you have been found guilty by a jury. You will be adjudicated guilty, and you will be sentenced to a consecutive sentence of 30 years in the Department of Corrections. On count 3, the solicitation to commit murder, you have been found guilty by a jury of that count. You are adjudicated guilty, and you will be sentenced to a consecutive sentence of 30 years in the Department of Corrections. You have credit for time served of 2,119 days. Your court costs are $2,625 and $100 cost of prosecution, and those will be civil judged. You have 30 days to file a notice of appeal, and if you cannot afford counsel, then
Okay, so that was another woman that is in the Lowell prison. We also see, do you remember Delia DePoto? I remember this case. Delia is the one who asked a undercover police detective to unalive her live-in boyfriend. The police really did a number on her. It was a beautiful sting that they did. She fought it for quite some time. I really thought that maybe she wasn't going to end up going to prison, but ultimately she did manage to get herself. Let me make sure that took you where okay. So how Delia DePoto is managing prison life and her legal team's hope for a new trial. She was convicted in 2011 for solicitation to commit first-degree murder. Big 2020 special. I would show it to you, but they would copyright strike me in an instant. So Delia is the Miss Delia DePoto has been called many things over the course of her roller coaster legal saga: a monster, an evil woman who wanted her husband dead, a black widow, but her longtime defense argues she is something else entirely. Delia is the most misunderstood woman in the United States. Really? It's not Sarah Boone? Her attorney told 2020 in a recent interview, the perception that people have in the world about Delia does not equate with the Delia that I know. Delia is one of those people that got pregnant too. She thought that if she would get pregnant while she was waiting for her trial, that it would help her not have to go to prison. That's what I believe, at least. After 3 trials and 2 convictions, the 37-year-old is currently being held at the Lowell Correctional Facility in Marion County, Florida. Claypool began representing DePoto after her first trial, and her defense then hopes to succeed at one last shot at getting her a new trial. She was never a career criminal. In fact, Delia didn't even have a criminal record when this went down. I mean, she solicited murder. I mean, you don't have to have a criminal record to do that, do you? Do you guys remember this? I think this might be one of the more popular ones. So the police put her in a sting. She went to the gym while they went to the guy's house and got him out of there. She came home. They said, "Oh my gosh, he's been murdered. Do you know what could have happened?" And she put on the performance of a lifetime. And then they were like, we gotcha. So that's Delia. If you guys remember that one. The next one that we have, well, actually, that is all that we have. I wanted to move on and talk about Lowell Prison itself. Wanted to talk about that in the hellhole that it is. So Lowell Prison Correctional is a women's prison in Marion County, Florida, north of Okala. We talked about a little bit. I live in Florida. I don't live in Okala, but I live in a few counties over. And I hear a lot of stuff about Okala being very an inbred type of county, very backwoods, very poor. It opened in 1956 as the Florida Correctional Institution and was the first Florida prison for women. It houses community minimum, medium, and close custody inmates. At the time it was open, Lowell was the only prison that housed solely female offenders in the state. Here is the sign outside of it. We never walk alone. And when I was talking to Lindsay, she talked about what a hellhole it is. The only good thing she mentioned about it was the food, which shocks me. Still, I don't know why it shocks me that it's to shock you that the food is good. But then I always think, like, I'm a fussy eater. Is the food really good? Like, I am like I have a really hard time eating stuff that my brain will overtake my stomach, and I just can't do it. And so, like, is it really good food? I don't know. I guess I'd have to hear from more people to really truly believe if it's good food. But what I mean, I don't know. But there was this thing that I found in the Tampa Bay Times. Florida new prison could be contaminated, but let women keep drinking. Data showed contamination from a firefighter college reached Lowell Correctional Institution. State officials did nothing for months. So it's no secret that the groundwater around the Florida State Fire College has been highly contaminated for years. This was updated in March 5th of 2024. So state health officials began warning nearby homeowners in 2019 that well water could damage their health after testing revealed groundwater around the college contained harmful human-made chemicals at levels more than 170 times higher than the state considers safe. It's no mystery where the pollution came from either. For years, firefighters at the college trained with foam extinguishers laced with chemicals that leached into groundwater. The chemicals, which have been phased out of industrial use in the United States, are classified as carcinogens and have been linked to other health issues, including cancer, thyroid issues, weakened immune systems, and irregular menstruation. The cleanup in a rural part of Marion County that relies on water pumped from the ground has taken the Florida Department of Environmental Protection more than 4 years, and it is still ongoing. Contaminated soil has been removed from the college, and the state provided bottled water and money for filtration systems to homeowners whose wells tested above safe levels. But inmates at Lowell Correctional Institution, a 2,400-bed women's prison across the street from the fire college, say they weren't told about the potential risk in their tap water, even as state data showed that contamination had spread to the prison. State environmental officials warned the Florida Department of Corrections in a December 2022 email that the contamination was spreading south toward the prison and asked to dig a monitoring well on the Lowell campus. Within 4 months, testing from the well confirmed that the groundwater beneath the prison contained chemical compounds from the foam at almost 3 times the level considered safe by the state. Records obtained by the Tampa Bay Times show. The Department of Environmental Protection confirmed that finding in a June notice sent to the Department of Corrections Tallahassee office. The notice listed both Lowell and the neighboring Florida Women's Reception Center to the east. The 1,235-bed facility houses newly incarcerated women in addition to serving as an inpatient mental health and short sentence institution. But state officials took no action for 8 months, allowing the women to continue to drink, wash, and eat food cooked in water from supply wells that had not been tested for the foam chemicals since 2018, state records show. When contacted by the Times at the state of February, corrections officials said that the wells used for drinking water were tested regularly and the prison has a reliable and non-contaminated water source. But records show those monthly tests were limited to checking for bacteria like E. coli and fecal coliform, and therefore wouldn't detect contamination from the fire college. So they just sort of let it go on. Water safety became an issue when several women at Lowell filed grievances, fearing that the drinking water was tainted by the foam chemicals. Shauna Taylor, who is about halfway through a 12-year prison sentence for aggravated child abuse and neglect, filed hers to the Secretary of the Department of Corrections in August. Please provide me safe drinking water and send me an outside medical specialist, she wrote. Adding to Taylor's unease was that she never saw guards drink tap water. She told the Times prisoners can purchase bottled water, but the $1.15 cost is out of reach for many at the prison who have no income. Her grievance was denied. I think they feel we deserve less because we're prisoners. That's because we're here. We don't deserve treatment and proper care, Taylor said. I do not feel like people should be harmed by drinking bad drinking water. So it is upsetting that they would do that. Not surprising to me that in our country that this would happen, but certainly not surprising. Delia was working as an escort when he ordered her for a date. They married quickly, and so they did marry. I didn't think they married. Okay, so I'm wrong. They did get married. They married quickly, and she was refusing to give back the house, put it in her name. Yeah. Police knew that Delia tried to set her husband by planting drugs in his car because of her record. Yep, she did that too. She's where she deserves to be, and she's a piece of work. Officers accused of inmate beating when left woman paralyzed, not charged nearly 3 years later. So there is beatings and grapes that are supposed to be happening at Lowell. Our Crisis in Correction series continues with the story of a former Florida prisoner who's now paralyzed after being beaten by corrections officers. The I-Team learned that while the state was paid out $4.65 million tax dollars to settle the case, the officers believed to be responsible for having beaten Cheryl Weer have yet to face criminal charges nearly 3 years later. We traveled more than 400 miles to West Weer in Fort Walton Beach at one of the few facilities in Florida that can provide her for extensive needs and accepts convicted felons. Weer appreciates the little things like a few minutes of fresh air in a park away from her nursing home. This is a blessing. Weer said when we met her, she hopes by speaking out, she can help prevent other incarcerated individuals from suffering at the hands of correction officers. She says she's every waking moment she's in pain. She can feel her bones. It's like somebody took an axe and went right through me. Yet she believes the Florida prison system is far more broken than her body. When I woke up in the ICU, knowing that I was paralyzed from the neck down, I didn't see me making it, she said. She said she had a troubled early life. She was living under a bridge after Hurricane Andrew and gave birth on all fours under an overpass. She was arrested for petty crimes over the next 2 decades. In 2014, her then boyfriend, Stephen Horowitz, was arrested for punching and kicking her in the ribs at a Broward County motel. He beat her up. She was afraid and she punctured him. Then she got arrested. In 2015, she was convicted of domestic violence for puncturing Horowitz with a steak knife and was sentenced to 7 years at Lowell Correctional Institute. I had to fight. I had to do the best I could to get out of the situation. A brutal beating leads to a broken neck. On August 21st, 2019, Weer was assigned to clean toilets, but she said she was in pain from a hip injury. I did about 7 toilets and I realized I couldn't do any more, she said. So I got down to the 8th one and I said, I can't do it. That's when she said corrections officer Ryan Dion and Lieutenant Keith Turner handcuffed her and then attacked her in front of more than a dozen witnesses. The lieutenant came running up in the back with his steel-toed boots and put it right through my spine. I mean, I went to my knees. According to the lawsuit, while she was on the ground, they brutally beat her with blows to her head, neck, and back. The lawsuit alleges Weimer was elbowed and kneed in the back of her neck by at least one of her attackers, causing her to suffer a broken neck. In one of the videos, her chin is touching her chest in a way that's physically impossible without a broken neck. Ugh. Ugh. Andrew said he could not share the disturbing videos due to a settlement agreement. Her labored breathing, her attempts at crying, it was horrible, Andrew said. Her begging, saying she couldn't move her extremities, it was horrific. Andrew said he could not, she was airlifted to an airport or to a, hold on, I'm about to sneeze. Oh, it's stuck in my nose. She was airlifted to a hospital where she underwent multiple surgeries and months of treatment. Corrections officers have questionable past. Initially, the guards accused of assaulting her remained on the job despite their questionable past. Everybody covers everybody's back. You just sweep it under the rug and go about your business. Both Diane and Turner had records of violence towards women and girls. According to the lawsuit, Diane was arrested in 2013 for beating his then girlfriend, as well as biting her neck and head area. Good God. The charges were dropped when his victim refused to testify, allowing Diane to qualify for employment by the Florida Department of Corrections. The lawsuit also alleges Turner showed violent, threatening, and abusive conduct towards women based on dozens of inmate complaints against him. A DOJ investigation into the mistreatment of prisoners at Lowell said Turner was accused repeatedly of sexually abusing multiple prisoners. However, he remained in his position until 2019 when he was arrested on charges of actually harming two small people. They could have terminated one of the individuals for any of 10 different things that he had complaints against him for. Andrew said they didn't, and they gave him opportunity to be there and to do what he did to Cheryl. Transcripts show Diane and Turner asserted their Fifth Amendment rights more than 600 combined times during depositions. Man, I wish the sneeze would just come out. Ooh. In the affirmative defense, Diane and Turner filed within the lawsuit. They stated that their actions were not committed in bad faith with malicious purpose or in a manner exhibiting wanton or willful disregard of human rights or safety. Attempts to contact them were unsuccessful. The Florida Department of Corrections settled the lawsuit in 2020 and paid $4.65 million. And then this is the final thing that I have for tonight. I actually have more up, but we're going to have to end it here. I'll push over the next stuff to our next Sarah Boone because, I mean, I've got some good stuff. I've got Sarah Boone finding religion. I've got Sarah Boone, what happened to her dogs. I got her bestie speaks out. The judge says no new trial for her. There's just a lot of Sarah Boone. I could go on and on talking about Sarah Boone. But here we have a Florida women's prison staff accused of, and I can't say the R word, so we're going to be calling it graping from here on out. Graping inmates, other disturbing abuses. Okala, Florida, a women's prison in Okala has shown a long-standing pattern of abusing inmates, including rape and other actual abuse by staff. But the Department of Corrections has failed to protect Lowell inmates for more than a decade, a U.S. Department of Justice investigation found. The Lowell Correction Institute in Okala, Florida's oldest and largest women's prison with more than 1,450 inmates overseen by Warden Stephen Rossiter. According to the DOC, it's also the largest women's prison in the country. On Tuesday, the Civil Rights Division of, when was this written? 2020. So this was 4 years ago. On Tuesday, the Civil Rights Division of the DOJ released a 36-page report detailing crimes committed against inmates and a pattern of discouraging prisoners from reporting abuse. What is happening? I have to sneeze and I suddenly can't read. According to the report, it's like all I can think about. I just want this dang sneeze to come out. According to the report, the Florida Department of Corrections has known about this pattern of staff actual abuse at the prison since at least 2006. A Miami Herald investigation in 2015 detailed complaints filed by prisoners between 2011 and 2015 saying women were repeatedly subjected to abuses. Many victims told the Herald they would often comply because they felt they had no other choice. The Department of Justice began investigating the facility in April 2018 to determine if the constitutional rights of prisoners were being violated. Throughout the 2-year investigation, investigators reviewed 108,505 pages of documents, made 4 on-site visits, and interviewed prison and FDOC staff as well as prisoners. They cited Miami Herald investigations saying the Department of Corrections could have taken action as the reporting was a result of DOC documents and public records requests. So, wow. It looks like the report details multiple examples of inmates being raped by a correction officer, and the officer ultimately remained on the job. Some accusations ended in criminal charges, while others have not, according to the DOJ. The report does not name former and current DOC staff in allegations, but News 6 has reported several recent arrests cited in the report, making the individuals easy to identify. Former Lowell Lieutenant Keith Turner was repeatedly accused of actually abusing multiple prisoners at Lowell over several years, but remained in his position until last year when he was arrested for actually harming 2 small girls outside the prison, according to the DOJ. Turner was fired on November 2019 following his arrest. Meanwhile, another incident was still under investigation. In addition to being an accused predator, the report states Turner was credibly accused of unjustified use of force against a Lowell prisoner. In August 2019, he was accused of brutally beating a handcuffed Lowell prisoner and leaving her quadriplegic. The former DOC recently settled in August with the inmate, agreeing to pay $4.65 million. A sergeant was arrested in July for actual misconduct after engaging in acts in a maintenance room with an inmate, according to the DOJ. The same sergeant was accused of actually abusing a different prisoner in 2017. Causing injuries to her throat and retaliating when she refused. The DOJ never completed the 2017 investigation, federal prosecutors say. Lowell has a long-standing pattern of criminal charges, discipline, and documented allegations of staff actual abuse. The report reads, a trainee corrections officer, Nicholas Seaburn Jefferson, was sentenced 2 years in prison in September 2019 after he pleaded guilty to actual misconduct with a prisoner. The prisoner said on 2 separate occasions in 2018, the officer woke her up in the middle of the night, walked her to a bathroom where she had actual intercourse with him in exchange for a prescription drug used to treat opiate withdrawal. Investigators wrote, it's a particularly disturbing that supervisors are among the repeat perpetrators of sexual abuse at Lowell. In 2018, a sergeant raped a prisoner, causing injuries that were photographed and documented. The same year, another inmate was raped between two buildings outside. Good gosh. Other inmates told investigators they are repeatedly groped and subjected to sexually explicit comments and harassments. Prisoners are often threatened with solitary confinement if they report abuse, the investigation found. Of 161 actual abuse investigations reviewed by the DOJ, 8 resulted in the arrest of an officer. 8? Good gosh. In several cases, officers resigned, and more than 24 officers were dismissed due to agency policy. So obviously it was more. The DOJ made a series of corrective measures for the Florida Department of Corrections and Lowell to take, including the way it handles actual abuse investigation. The Florida Department of Corrections released a statement to the Associated Press saying they have cooperated fully with the Justice Department investigation and will continue to do so. The state said it will share with federal officials the actions the prison has taken to address the serious concerns outlined in the review. Prison officials have a constitutional duty to protect prisoners from harm, including actual abuse by staff. Assistant Attorney General for the Civil Rights Division, Eric Dreban, said in a statement, actual abuse is never acceptable and is not part of any prisoner's sentence. And I will wholeheartedly agree with that one. Gosh. But do you see what I mean? Hell on earth in there. I can't even imagine. Let me see what you guys are saying. There should never be any men near women prisoners. Ridiculous. I know that seems like that should be the way, but I don't think we could get women. We would have to pay women quite a bit of money to be prison guards. And I think we're having enough problems keeping male and female prison guards. I can't imagine staffing an entire prison with all female guards, but it would be a nice prospect. But yeah.
I'm having bad thought after bad thought after bad thought today. Everything is falling down on top of me. I wanna lie here on this cold hard ground and cry for a while. And I really don't care who sees me at this point in time. It's been a